Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast is created and produced, Darkinjung Land. We acknowledge the elders, ancestors, and the future generations coming through. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
They see you as the only option. You become the option for them. You are no longer competing with XYZ. You are no longer shouting louder than the other person in your industry. You just become the obvious choice. You just become the choice. There is no comparison.
Building a magnetic business isn't easy. Some days it feels like you're battling the algorithm, drowning in a sea of sameness and chasing that elusive vision of success whilst trying to keep your integrity intact. But magnetism isn't something that you chase. It's something that you cultivate. When your business is fully charged with clarity and conviction, you're not just visible to your ideal audience. They feel the magnetic pull. I'm your host, Amy Pearson, creative strategist and business expansion coach. Join me in orbit as I uncover the world of marketing, strategy, and sales, guiding you to align your business with a life that you love without losing your artistic integrity along the way. If you're a creative, visionary, or purpose-led business owner, you've landed in the right space. Welcome to the Magnetic Pull.
All right, here we go. Welcome to the new podcast, formerly known as Brand Conversations and now known as the Magnetic Pull. I am so happy to be here with you, listening to me in your ear holes about all of this business and branding stuff that is going to actually move the needle and actually help you to magnetize an audience that is aligned and that will want to invest in you, because that is the way that we make impact, that we help people with what they actually need help with. And I am so stoked to be taking you on this journey with me. This is something I've been wanting to do for so long, but I avoided stepping into the personal brand. There's a lot to say there. There's a lot to unpack there, and we're not going to do that today. What we are going to do is I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of what to expect here, because I have got some juicy episodes planned out. I have got so much content written for this, and I'm so excited to get it out into the world for you. Today's episode is called The Magnet Effect. You can't fake the pull. The magnet effect is how you magnetize people to you as a personal brand, to you as a business owner, and how to build trust with your audience. I'm going to get into that in a minute, but first I want to just break down a few things that I've got coming up, because they are very exciting and I think you'll want to hear about them. So I'm going to be talking to you about how you're sabotaging your own magnetism. I am going to be talking to you about the validation metrics. This is something that I have phrased myself. I am going to be talking to you about magnetic messaging that sticks, what that means, how to say what you actually mean and attract the people who need to hear that through your content and your website. I am going to be sharing with you so many juicy bits and pieces about how to nurture your audience, how to gain visibility, and then magnetize those people into your orbit so that by the time you're ready to sell, they are already primed and waiting for you. There's going to be moments where I'm going to be sharing things that may come across as slightly woo, because there are elements to this that are energetic. And I never thought I would be that person coming into this business space, running a business as a marketing and brand designer. I did not ever think that those words would come out of my mouth, because I was not an energetics person in my business back then, in my expertise. I was purely visual and strategy. And now I understand how much the energetics element does come into business. There is no avoiding it. And I will break down how and why in many different ways very soon. So today we're talking the magnet effect. I'm going to break down what that is. I'm going to tell you a story about something that actually happened to me, and how when you actually really do focus in on working out how to communicate what you do to the people that actually need what you have to offer, you will catapult your growth. That is the way that you catapult it. That is the way that you move the needle in an actual noticeable, monumental way that you see the change in the growth. So how do you build trust that actually makes people want to buy? Trust is actually not about shouting louder. It's not about standing out above the noise because you're screaming. And a lot of people in the marketing industry use that phrasing. They use the stand out above the noise. But what I want to talk about is how when you learn how to create authentic connection with your audience, they see you as the only option. You become the option for them. You are no longer competing with XYZ. You are no longer shouting louder than the other person in your industry. You just become the obvious choice. You just become the choice. There is no comparison. We want to get you to a place, if you're a service-based business or a creative, we want to get you to a place where when someone gets on a call with you, they're not getting on other calls. They've just chosen you because they want to work with you. 99.9% of the time, that's what happens with me. It is very rare that I get on a call with someone and they say they are talking to a whole bunch of other people in the marketing and design space. And that's because the type of people that I attract to my business, they are coming to me for me. They're coming to me because they know me and my personal brand. And that has been one of the most pivotal reasons for my success in my business, Sun Mother. So here's the story that I want to tell you today that will put this into perspective for you. I was recently sick in bed. It's 2025. It's March right now as I'm recording this. And I've already been sick this year during the summer. For anyone else in the world, here in Australia, we've just finished summer. We're just stepping into autumn. And I've already been sick once this year. So when I was laying there in bed, half awake, in a feverish state, I was mindlessly scrolling through social media. You know, the kind where your brain is kind of fogged over, your body's exhausted, you're just passing time because you don't want to be alone with your thoughts. It was like that. I saw a question in a business group on Facebook about marketing, and it said, how do you build trust with your audience before they buy from you? It was one of those, someone does a Facebook post and they get like the classic templated, canvas style background, and it's really big and it's like center aligned with bold text. It just stood out. And I thought, well, I can answer that easily. And without even thinking comprehensively about what I was doing, I was already typing a response. Keep in mind, I had an extremely bad headache. I could not think well at all. I wasn't even working this day. That's how my brain was not functioning. And before I realized it, I had posted a response, and then, it fell out of my mind. I completely forgot about it. But the next morning when I woke up, my phone was blowing up. I had so many friend requests on Facebook. I don't get friend requests on Facebook because I have a different name to my actual name so that people don't try and, connect with me because it's not a business account, right? It's a personal account. I had notifications pinging like crazy. I was convinced that I had been hacked or someone had shared my profile somewhere, and I was concerned. And then it all clicked. My comment had gone viral. And it had gone viral in a very different way to the standard virality. It was not like, it had shown up in the algorithm to people that had not already been following this account. It was like the people that were going into this group, they were seeing my comment first because so many people had been responding to it. So I'll read out the question again so that you remember. How do you build trust with your audience before they buy? And this is what I said. The same way you do with relationships in real life. When you meet someone new, whether it's a friend or a romantic partner, you are not consciously trying to get them to trust you. You are just doing it. It's this natural human instinct. I mean, maybe there are some people out there that don't do that, but for most of us, that is the case, right? You're not really thinking, oh, I better get them to trust me. How do I do that so that they will come over later? It's just a natural progression. And when you show up as your true, authentic self and make an effort with somebody, rather than expecting them to reach out to you or make an effort with you or, and when you're sharing your passion and your dreams and your purpose and all of the things that light you up with someone new who you are getting to know, incredible things happen. That's how sparks fly. That's how relationships are formed. That's how friendships are formed. The way I teach magnetism and marketing and sales is all through the lens of the magnet effect. It's even how I teach making money. There is always a strategy element to what I do. There is always a logic, an action, a task element to it. But there's also always this energetic magnetism element. When you are showing up as your authentic self, you are building a real, impactful magnetic force. The people who are magnetized will flock towards you. They are your people. They are your community. The people who are not, they would have never bought from you anyway. And the thing with magnets is they don't just attract, they also repel. So in order to be able to magnetize people, you are going to have to be happy with repelling them as well. This is the piece that most people that I work with and most people in general are so terrified of. This is the piece that prevents people from actually showing up at all. And when you're trying to cater to everyone out there, or when you're concerned about whether or not somebody likes you, or whether someone you know is going to judge you, or whether your, great aunt is going to think you're a little bit, up yourself because there's a video of you on your social media, whatever it is that you've got in your mind as some element of difficulty, those things are what's going to stop you from getting out there in the first place. And they're also the things that are going to make sure that if you do put yourself out there, but you aren't fully aligned with your authenticity because you're worried about any of these things, you are not going to attract the people that actually want you, the people that actually would be interested in you. And so this scared, terrified element where we're not really being authentic, we're not really diving into the deep, connective, important, relevant stuff that shows who you truly are, your authentic personality. And if you have more than just one person in your business, there is definitely something there. There is definitely someone or some kind of version of humanism in your business that needs to be authentically projected out into the world. If you are not doing that because you are so terrified, you are watering down your message, your personality, and your impact, which leaves you blending into a crowd of sameness. That is when you're not really for anyone because there's no magnet. There's no magnet involved at all. No one's really being repelled because there's nothing really that different happening. It's just pretty boring, bland, inauthentic content, right? But also, no one's really magnetized because it's the same old thing. There's nothing new. There's nothing exciting. There's nothing sort of shifting their perspective. There's nothing genuine being projected out there. And a magnet without charge is not worth investing in. So I kind of expanded a little bit here on what I'd said because I'm passionate. I had a lot to say here. But I had essentially written an example of this, a piece of this, while half conscious, lying in bed, TV droning in the background, kids running wild, and yet it struck a chord. Strangers from all over the world were agreeing and thanking me and cheering and telling me I should write a book because I had so many gems, and the sheer volume of responses floored me. But why did this message resonate so deeply? Because it was clear, it was charged, and it was true. I have spent so many years refining my work, distilling my message, and sharpening what I say to the point where it can land instantly. I can write it when I'm not even fully conscious, when I'm sick, when I'm feeling bad. And that is what you need to be able to do as well. Because if you don't have that capability yet, if people don't immediately understand your message, they don't feel it. And if they don't feel it, they won't trust you enough to invest in you. They won't want to spend money with you. So, the magnet effect and why it matters. The truth about trust is that trust isn't built by trying to build trust. It happens through real, genuine connection. And when you show up fully charged as your whole unfiltered, weirdly wonderful self, you create this magnetic force. The people who are meant to be in your orbit are flocking to you, and the people who aren't are repelled. And you have to remember this part because this is actually a really good thing. And this is the thing that most people are terrified of. But the magnet effect is about how when you are watering yourself down and trying to be liked by everyone, you are not able to stand out. You are not able to be sharing something that people pause and look at because it is not interesting enough. Some messages will land instantly. And that is an example of what I shared with you. And what I shared with you before is an example of that. The difference between posting and being magnetic, anyone can put content out there, but magnetic messaging stops the scroll and it pulls people in. Here's what makes the difference. I'm going to break down the difference between posting and being magnetic, okay? So anyone can put content out there. You can put content out there. Your sister can put content out there. Your best friend can put content out there. A lady down the street can put content out there, whatever it is, right? But the messaging that stops the scroll and pulls people in, it has these elements, and that's really important for you to understand. So it has a clear, charged message. Your audience immediately feels something when they see your words. It has a defined point of view. Stop saying what everyone else is saying. It is not interesting. I mean, what's the point, right? It is not going to change anything. It is not going to draw people towards you. It just makes you look like a sheep in a crowd of sheep. Say what you actually believe. What do you actually believe? Because sometimes you can get caught up in the, I feel like I don't know enough here. I feel like I don't have enough authority. So I'm just going to make sure I'm saying all the right things that people in my industry are already saying just to make sure that I say the right thing and that no one judges me. But guess what? That is not the right thing. The right thing is what you believe as the business owner. It's what you believe as a thought leader. If you are not sharing your own perspective and your own beliefs, you are not a thought leader. The third element is emotional precision. Speak to the real feelings behind people's struggles and desires. What do they actually feel and what do they actually want? The reason that Facebook comment blew up for me is because I have spent years doing the work. I am not just putting myself out there or being visible or posting content every day, because those things, while they are action driven, they are not needle moving necessarily if they don't have the extra elements you need to actually make progress with them. Just posting content every day isn't enough. It's not enough to actually make any difference in your business. The amount of people that I work with one-to-one as a done-for-you service in marketing or, in my group programs or my coaching who say to me, but Amy, I am posting so much. I'm doing so much hard work and it's not working. It's not the amount of posting that is the problem. It's probably the content that you're posting that is the problem. And it's really hard to see that when you're not on the outside looking in. So let's give you some examples before we round up today. I'm going to show you the difference between potent messaging and not so potent messaging, okay? So here's an example. So number one, say what you actually mean, right? Instead of saying, I help women feel better in their bodies, you could say, I help millennial women stop battling food guilt and actually enjoy eating food again. The difference is so clear, right? I help women, that is so vague, feel better in their bodies. Okay, like that could mean so many things. There's so many actual industries that could be, right? But if you said, I help millennial women to stop themselves from battling the food guilt and actually enjoy eating again, that is so much more potent. Number two is mirror their inner dialogue. So if your audience feels like you get them, they trust you. Pay attention to the exact words that your ideal clients use to describe their struggles, what they're actually going through. Don't make it up. If you're making it up, you could be speaking to nobody. People might be thinking, it's not me, because either it's not clear enough or you're not actually speaking to it from their perspective. You're speaking to it from your perspective of their perspective. I know it's quite meta, but really we need to be paying attention to, if you don't have current clients that are even remotely close to your ideal clients, then you need to be engaging yourself into the actual communities online, finding these people out there so that you can see what they're saying and connect with them and hear them and listen to them. Don't try and sell to them. Just take it in. You need to learn how to communicate with them before you try and put something down their throat. They need to feel like they can trust you before you get to that part later. And then once you do sort of understand what they're actually saying, you need to experiment with those words and reflect them back in your content so that these people feel seen. Because when people feel seen, that is when they really start to get magnetized and when they start to build trust with you, because they can see that you actually know what they're going through. And that is huge for people. And number 3, own your energy. If you are hesitant, your audience will 100% feel that. They will feel that. If you show up with conviction, they will also feel that. And someone who has conviction and humility is someone worth paying attention to, because they are human. They are, a fully complex human being. They are not a robot. They are not reading from AI. They are not getting their mouth to move with AI. I just cannot look at those videos, by the way. They are so uncomfortable to watch at this point. If you are a real person and you have real energy, that will go so much further than anything else you could do. Speak as if you already have the trust you're trying to build. Don't speak as if you're trying to build the trust, because that is a repellent. And that is what you would not do if you were meeting someone new or you were trying to build a real relationship, which is why it's so important to have that metaphor there of what it's like in reality, what it's like when you're actually speaking to people who are real. Because guess what? Your clients are real. You want to be attracting humans, and you are a human. So we need to do it through human connection. So essentially all of this stuff that I'm telling you right now, it's actually just basic human communication. But we overcomplicate it by making it about business. And yes, it is still about business, but at the core of it, we're still 2 human beings trying to connect with one another in various ways. So let's make sure that that's clear. And in terms of owning your energy, the other thing is be the person they want to buy from, not just some random option. Make sure you know who you want to magnetize, but also make sure you are 100% you, because sometimes those things won't align and you will need to experiment. The only way to make sure that it's going to work out and it's going to happen is by doing it. You can strategize all you want, and I am a big believer in strategy. I do strategy for myself, for my clients, with my coaching clients, etc. A strategy without experimentation and implementation is not worth having. So please make the most of your strategy by experimenting. So your strategy is literally trying to figure out who this person is and how you can communicate the way they are communicating what they already have and want. Okay, I'm going to leave it on this final note. The real flex, truly, for me, and I think for anyone out there, is being okay with not being liked by everybody. The goal here in this, magnetism, starting a business, putting your creative work out there, whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're a creative and a leader or an entrepreneur, the real flex is going to be accepting that some people are not going to like you. The goal is being unforgettable to the right people and repel the wrong people. I want you to ask yourself, as we wrap up today, our first episode together, I want you to ask yourself, are you showing up fully charged right now? You will know the answer to this. You don't need anyone else to answer this for you. You will know deep down. You have the answers. You already have the answers in you. I'm just asking you the questions to make yourself think about how you really feel here. Are you showing up fully charged? You may have been showing up for 5 years and you may still not be showing up as authentically yourself. So that's important to think about. Is your message sharp enough to be remembered? You will know this by you being able to remember it. If someone asks you a question about your industry in a random Facebook group or out on the street one day when you're with friends, at the park or at the pub or wherever it is you are, someone asks you a question about your business, like the question I answered on Facebook, if you can answer that question without having to look at notes or look at your own website to look at your, your header on the above the fold, or if you don't need to go back and have a look at what you're supposed to say and you just have that deep within you, then your message is probably pretty sharp. The second way to figure that out is to see how much engagement you're actually getting with your message. And then the final thing I want you to ask yourself is this: are you speaking in a way that makes the right people feel drawn towards you instantly? That comes with both showing up authentically fully charged and having a strong message. If you combine those two things, you are most likely speaking in a way that makes the right people feel drawn towards you. And how you'll figure out if that's happening is by working out, are you actually booking clients that you adore working with? Are you already magnetizing those people? If not, then you probably need to do some work on becoming the authentic version of yourself and, having enough self-trust to put yourself out there and be a thought leader, and or refining your message so that people can understand clearly exactly what you're saying and who it's for, and they can figure out if you're for them in an instant. Okay, that is all for today. It has been a true pleasure coming back to your ears and connecting with you all. I wish I could see your faces or have a response, but that's not the way podcasts work. In saying that, if you do want to chat to me, I would love to hear how you found this episode, what you're struggling with right now. Drop into my Instagram at sunmotheramy. Thank you so much for joining me on the Magnetic Pull for the first ever episode. It's been such a joy. Until next week, big love.